Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
Shh, be very, very quiet. We're hunting elephants. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
Sam Elmerfoot. And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I am back from my secret mission in Iowa. Guess what I found, Troy? Corn. I found corn. Lots of corn. Thanks for joining us this week as we discuss number 50 on the Blacklist, Arioch Cain, which aired October 29th, 2015. Was written by Dawn DeNoon. Is she a new writer on the show?
I believe so. John Bokenkamp actually tweeted out that people should start following on Twitter.
All right.
And she, newer on Twitter, too.
Well, thanks, Dawn. Good episode. And it was directed by Alex Zakarzuski. I hope I said that right. Thanks, Alex. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. All right. Now, there are a ton of you listening, which is very awesome. Huge thank you. But since we are in the Halloween and Thanksgiving season here in the United States, we want to do a thank you trick-or-treat contest between October 31st, 2015 and November 26th, 2015. We want to increase our iTunes reviews, not just ratings, reviews, as it helps bring more theories and more thoughts to the show for this dynamic third season.
Yeah, so here's the deal. The trick part of this is that we want to average 10 new reviews a week. We have to average 10 new reviews each week in order for the grand prize to be in play. So if you want to have a chance, make sure you go ahead and start those reviews. Now, the thank you portion of this is that your reviews are all the thanks we need, as it actually helps the show, get out to more people, lets us know that you love what we're doing on here on the show. So that's a great thank you. So thanks. But the treat is that every person that has ever given a review, that means all of you from season 2, you're going to be in play for this contest as well. So all the new and all the old people are going to be in play. We're going to have a prize drawing after the fall finale. So we're going to draw that post-Thanksgiving episode. Remember, 10 new reviews each week have to be happening in order for the grand prize to be in play.
Bonus treat. Each week, 2 reviewers will get an extra name in the bucket. 2 chances to win. This week, in honor of our 50th Blacklister, the 5th new review and the 10th new review will be those double lucky winners. If we reach 10 new reviews a week between now and November 26th, the grand prize will be a copy of Season 1 and Season 2 of The Blacklist. If you're excited, start sending in those reviews. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed in iTunes. Be sure to click on the podcast, and a huge thanks from us.
Absolutely. Now, last week we asked you to answer our profiling question of the week, which was what was on the page Red took out of the journal.
Okay, now before we do this, I do want to say thank you to Doug for filling in last week. He did a great job, so thank you. That's my audio applause. And I also want to say I'm sorry I missed out. I was in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, guys. There's no internet there. Just hills in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Just hills. All right, first one. Tessa says it's a Cabal member's name. Not just a Cabal member, a member who had a desire to take out another Cabal member. The enemy of my enemy is my friend for Red. Lord Z said Solomon's fantasy, which had exactly how he was going to deal with Red and Liz. That might seem like a stretch, like they wrote out the fantasy in the journal. Right. Christina Marie said I think it was the Jin's own page. Maybe he took it so she would serve less time, and therefore she will be in his pocket for further use. Maybe. Robin said it was the director's page. That's what I think it was. That's my personal
Interesting.
one. Mm-hmm. Erica said it is a small piece to the bigger puzzle to bring down the Cabal. Terry said Nasum's great-grandmother's pecan pie recipe. Man, that pecan pie. It's got to be delicious. I think Blacklist should sell one. What do you think?
It comes in a box with a fedora. The pie is in the fedora, the pie is actually the shape of a fedora. That would be
That sounds better than a pie in a fedora. Yeah. You do not get to make tasty treats.
No, do not.
No. Carol said it was the name of 2 Cabal members who used the Jinn services that Red mentioned earlier in the episode. Aha. Very astute. Kim and Karen and Desiree all said it was Red's own page.
Ooh, what?
Never even thought of that. That's very smart.
Yes.
Annette said it was Liz's page. Another good one. I didn't think of that either. Man, you guys are good. Susan said it was the director's fantasy, and it is so good. Again with the fantasy thing. It's so good that Red hires Vanessa Cruz to make it happen.
Ah, look at that. Bring the Blacklister back in that we want to see again. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Nice job, Susan. And finally, Doc H had this note to say. Gents, great podcast this week. To Doug, you fit in like an old glove on the BLE. It was a pleasure to hear your matriculation on behalf of Professor Reddington at Blacklist University after so many months missing from POI Community College in New York City. As a pinch hitter, you are batting 1,000 with a sweet 4-bagger home run grand slam. To Aaron, if you get this, you were so wrong. Well, I love when people say I'm just wrong. You were so wrong on the issue about leaving the gin behind for capture. Yes, the revenge angle on Dad was spot on. But hundreds of felonies were committed, aided, abetted, and otherwise facilitated to get to that point. Now, I imagine that many of those wishes that were granted by the gin were against bad folks, but still, maybe some were relatively innocent types and faced brutal demises. They call the show the Blacklist for a reason. If you were placed there with a number by Raymond Reddington, you are bad and you are going away. Punto. As for what was on the page in the journal that Red extracted, my guess is that it might be him, nah, somebody on or associated with the task force, meh, some trusted agent in his private network, getting warmer, the individual that can exonerate Liz from the criminal assassination she stands accused of, hot, or it was the one person that could have been responsible for the anomaly with the fulcrum that he and Marvin Gerard detected a few weeks back. Ding, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner. Whatever the page contained, it will become huge leverage to manipulate the environment and terrain ahead. Cheers, Doc H. What do you think about his theory?
I like that. Something that is part of this plan, this mysterious plan that we don't know anything about other than it's going to take place on a banana plantation.
All right. And back to what he said where I'm wrong. I don't like the words wrong. Just say you don't agree with me. I'm not wrong. It's my opinion. Suck it. I will say that the reason I called in and said that was because I think this is a sympathetic blacklister. And we have seen Red show sympathy towards those that have been victimized in the past, even if that did lead them to a life of crime. So I thought, and I still think, it was a negative character development on Red's part. I didn't like it. I thought it was not in character and just didn't agree with it.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, or he'd be typically sympathetic. I mean, like he was sympathetic to the girl at the end of this episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could see where you would come up with that, but at the same time, I think it's the trade-off, the cat and mouse game that they're doing with Donald. So he had to give Donald something more than just the journal.
Let me go to that real quick. In my opinion, from my viewing, he did give him the journal back. So to me, that was enough. He could have saved him, and I wasn't a fan of that term. But I still loved the episode. I still like the episode quite a bit. It's just a matter of that one issue I had with it. But we're on this week's episode.
That's right. So our next question, our next profiling question of the week, I did it last week, so I'm going to yield the floor to you, kind sir. What do you have in store for us, Aaron?
All right, this week's profiling question. How will Ressler facilitate working with the director? I mean, how is he gonna do what he wants to do to save Liz when he knows the venom is right there with him?
That's going to be really interesting. And I just want to point out, I think we called that, right, in our season 3 episode, that eventually Ressler was going to have to end up working with the Cabal in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, we did. I think I kind of saw it a different way, where he was going to be manipulated into it. Well, I guess he was manipulated into it. We're smarter than we thought.
That's true. That's true. Now, with that out of the way, let's work on getting Aaron's name off that website as we discuss this week's case profile.
All right, guys, we start with the fakest fakety-fake death I've ever seen, as Mr. Kaplan and Red set it up so it hits the media that Liz is dead. Were you fooled at all?
Oh, no. The minute it came up and she was like on the ground and I was like 48 hours earlier, 72 hours earlier. Here we go.
I was doing too. Oh, man. And it's funny because when you live tweet, you see what a lot of people are, and which we do for the episodes on the East Coast feed. When you do that, you sometimes see people and their reactions to the episode. And there was a bunch of people going, oh, my God, Liz is dead. Liz is dead. And I'm just sitting there trying to be as fan respectful as I can in my head going, I kind of want to curse them out right now. Because have you ever seen a TV show? Really? You think the main character is going to go out like that?
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Although I do have to say, if this was the show where it was going to happen that way, this would have been the show to do it. because you would totally not believe it, and then you come to the end of the episode and go, "Wait, what? She was really dead?"
That's a good point. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. That is fair. Okay, well, Liz and Red, 48 hours earlier. Was it 48? Was 72? I don't remember.
It was 12.
12. Okay, 12 hours earlier. Man, they got a lot done in 12 hours.
No doubt. I thought it was 24 for a minute.
Wow. Right. They got to cross L.A. in 12 minutes. It's amazing. Liz and Red take off again on the run. Wendigo is on their trail. Now, Wendigo is basically a rogue assassin, is the way Red tells it. It also commonly means a demonic spirit. Demonic spirit. If you've ever listened to, or have you ever watched Pet Sematary movie or read the book, Wendigo is a big factor of that book, and it's the demonic spirit that basically is unseen and tries to recruit people and tries to possess people, kill people, that sort of thing. So it's a demonic spirit. So that's
which is kind of funny when you think about it, because Wendigo being a demonic spirit, but yet he's trying to do justice. Mm-hmm. So in this sense, he's almost kind of a good spirit in a way.
That's one way to look at it. Sure. Yeah, sure. But I don't know if it's really good. I mean, they still want, it's murder, right?
Right.
Murder's not good. Are you advocating murder right now, Troy?
No, I'm just advocating for homemade bullets.
You guys write this down because this might come up in his presidential conference. All right, so the Wendigo has a target on Liz's back, and Red approaches Ressler, which I did not see that coming. Approaches Ressler at his recovery program to talk about helping save Liz. 2 questions for you, Troy.
Which I did not see that coming because I thought we dropped that storyline.
Yeah, which I'm glad they went back to it. I'm glad they revisited it. So my questions to you, Troy, are I got 2 questions. One, are you happy we came back to the recovery storyline, that they didn't just blow it off and pretend like it didn't happen? Sorry, I'm fumbling this week. I apologize, guys. And 2, are you surprised at how well Ressler dealt with Red?
No, I think Ressler dealing with Red was perfectly fine. I thought it was really cool too how he picked up the phone and he's like, "Okay, you got 4 minutes, go." Mm-hmm. Calling in for the backup. Love that, the fact that they could just have a conversation, but yet he's not going to let him walk all over him. So he kind of asserted his, I guess, leadership style, if you will, from the task force to still keep that character of "I'm going to bring you in" kind of concept, but yet still hear him out. I did not see that they were going to go to an NA meeting at all. That was really kind of I wonder why we're coming back here. Why are they doing that? Was it just for this one scene, or is there something really actually wrong with Ressler from his addiction side of things? And does it have to do with the fact that he was chasing Reddington all his years previously, and maybe that's what caused an addiction problem, and Red is like an addiction for Ressler, and we're supposed to kind of jump to that?
No, I think, honestly, I think it was we need to go back and pay something off for the audience because we kind of just left that thread hanging. We never really put it to bed. And number 2, I think Red needed a place or time where he could find Ressler without a problem, where he would be isolated, where he'd be alone, and they could find him without a problem. I think that's what that was. And it was the writer saying, well, we need to come up with something. We need to pay this off. These two plot lines can coexist right here.
Right.
That's what I think it was. Come to find out that specific bullets are used to identify the shooter, because basically that's how the assassin identify. I did it. Oz did it. And this one has Psalms 1:1 written on the bullet, and Samara refers to it as "Blessed is he who walks not in the counsel of the wicked." But you found the whole passage, right?
Yeah, it's basically "Blessed is the one," depending on which translation you use, right? Some politically correct versions. Not everybody was a dude in the Old Testament. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. So basically, if you are a pure person, then you are blessed. That's what that says. So in this case, Wendigo thinks he's doing the right thing.
So we're not blessed, probably.
No.
That's too bad. All right, well, they lead Red and Liz to the gunsmith who makes the bullets. Turns out it's all led by a website called deadnotalive.org, which as horrible as it sounds, I really love this concept. I'm a really disturbed individual because I'm like, that's a really cool idea. That's horrible. But donors make Bitcoin donations to offer a bounty for someone's head, where basically the public is saying, I'm going to donate as much money as I see fit, however much it is, to make sure that this person dies. What do you think about this
What did I think about the concept of the website or the actual website, deadnotalive.org? Because I have thoughts on that too.
Well, do the first one.
Okay, so the first one, I think that the site was a stroke of genius. I think it's absolutely brilliant because then everybody becomes a bounty hunter. Mm-hmm. And as much as this is the year of Star Wars, I think they're trying to play off that a little bit, trying to see if Boba Fett would come out in New York.
Okay.
And
I think you're reaching just to make a Star Wars connection, but all right.
But at the same time, I really love the scene where they're sitting in the park and like everybody's like just looking at Liz, right, the guy behind the newspaper, and he's digging back into the baby cart, and then he's going with the coat over his arm. Every single person looks like they could be an assassin. And I think that really makes it interesting because then the tension just builds because you have no idea which one of these is actually going to pull the gun out. Or nobody, for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So really, really great concept. I love the two-factor authentication system, too.
Do you think it's disturbing? It's too disturbing to think that the public would actually donate money to have someone killed?
I guess it depends. I mean, you think about what we dealt with the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. I'm sure lots of people would have put money up for that. We did. It's called taxes.
Wow. That's a nice way to spin it. Maybe that's what they're trying to point out. Like, hey, you guys already pay for this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right. What's your second point? Where the website actually leads to?
Yeah. So I'm the sick person in the group, I guess, because I actually went to deadnotalive.org.
You are not the only one. You are not.
Well, you didn't do it. But that's because you were tweeting, probably.
I was tweeting, but I've got a friend who did it and said, "Do you know where this leads?" I'm like, "Troy just told me." Yep. And I can say that I am 100% disappointed. Disappointed beyond belief, because when I went to deadnotalive.org, the first thing I expected to see at a minimum was the exact thing Lizzie was seeing on her laptop computer. Mm-hmm. And then next thing I expected to see was the money climbing as the episode went on, right? Because that's what I would have done. Mm-hmm. Instead, it goes to Sony Pictures Television's website for promoting Sony Pictures products, which, if you don't know, Sony Pictures Television is behind the Blacklist and sold it to NBC. So at least they actually registered the domain. So 1 point for Sony. Mm-hmm. But yeah, bad that they didn't actually do something with it. Second time this season they've set a website and did nothing with it on the show. Oh, you sound really bummed.
It's because if you're going to do stuff like that, you got even Under the Dome had a website called the Hounds of Diana, and they actually did something with the site for as bad as Under the Dome was. So if Under the Dome can actually do something with the website, I'd expect more from Sony and the Blacklist.
Because this is a good show, as opposed to Under the Dome, which was not.
Yeah, I mean, just a simple website with the picture, and they just have a JavaScript counter making the money go up as the episode goes on.
I got to be honest, I was really, I don't want to say disappointed, because I mean, it's just a fun little thing to do. But I think when you put those things in shows, it is a nice little treat for really dedicated fans to that same page that you created for the show. Just throw it up there. I mean, that's really all you need to do. And maybe put like a big red stamp, like exposed on our logo. Just put a stamp on it where it just basically says dead, something like that. That would have been a fun treat for fans, I think. Well,
and you could take it a step further even. You could actually say donate now and have some disclaimer on the bottom. And then at the end of the show, someone could come on and say, hey, you know what? We're actually raising money through the course of this episode for the Fallen CIA Agents Foundation or whatever. And all the money donated from the website would have gone to help that cause.
Just more proof that they need to hire you, Troy. Just
I know.
More proof. Maybe the call will come at
someday.
Point. You can be like the idea guy.
I might not come back from L.A. in March.
Arioch Cain put the bounty on Liz's head, and it turns out that it is a teenage daughter. And if you wonder why we're zipping through it, we always do the basic show plot, and then we do the characters if you've never listened before. It turns out it's teenage daughter Blair did it. Her mom Sharon died in the Arioch bombing. She had that page all up and ready to go on her laptop, too, by the way, when they got there.
Yep.
So what do you think about, because I know some people called this. I was in a room full of fans because we were watching it together, and they called it right off the bat that it was the daughter. Were you surprised by the daughter at all?
Like off the bat from the beginning of the show, before the 12 hours earlier, or right when they stormed the house?
Actually, as soon as it went into the what deadnotalive.org was, they called it.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I did not see the daughter coming. I thought Arioch Cain was going to be the elephant poacher gun guy. Like he was using a fake name initially, and then they were going to come back to him, and he was going to end up being the other person. But
well, what do you think about it? Having a teenage daughter be the assassin, basically the hirer.
My like raw emotion to it, or the politically nice because we're on a podcast.
No, raw emotion. This is a conversation. This podcast. We're supposed to talk about stuff.
Stupid, absolutely dumb.
Wow.
And here's why. Not because I didn't like the daughter or her acting style, which was a little bit but the fact that every single blacklister, so this goes into the mythos of the show. So every single blacklister Red either knows, is associated with, has given up the information to the task force, to Lizzie, to whoever. This is a blacklister that Red knew zero about. I almost thought, as he's like, no, I'm the one that put up on the website, and Red kind of cocked his head like the brr, like the dog does, you know? And I thought he was really going to say, well, that's different. Because literally this is a we have this blacklister, and the blacklister is literally nobody Red knows. So what does that say about the blacklist? This is his list of names, so how does he not know who Arioch Cain is? This episode should have been titled Wendigo.
I agree with that part. I actually agree with that part. That's very accurate. I will say that, and I'm always a big fan, because I'm a movie buff, right? So I've seen so many movies it makes me sick sometimes. But young actors, I give a little bit more leniency to, because they're still learning their craft. They don't have as many opportunities to expand their abilities and stuff as older actors who've been in the business for 10, 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So whenever I see a young actor pulling off a role like this, I give them a little bit of leniency. I don't think the young actress playing Blair was particularly strong. I think her acting was a little questionable, but I also give her credit. I mean, she's young. She's trying. It's a really central focus of this entire episode, so I give her kind of a pass. You know what I mean? But I like the character. I like the idea that, because especially if you have teenagers, or you've had teenagers recently, you know that how efficient they are with technology these days, how they know how to do way more than their parents do. And to me, I like that blending of it, like that bringing it where it's not a typical, old white guy in a cave, who whipped this up, or a gunsmith or something like that. It was a teenage girl who just basically found this through the internet, and it's almost like a game to her, because she's so distraught from her mother's death that she decided to use technology to her advantage and get Liz dead. I actually like the concept. I didn't love the actress. I thought her performance could have used some work, but I also, like I said, gave her a pass. But I like the idea. I like the idea.
I do love the idea. So just to clarify for Dawn and for Alex and for everybody that worked on the episode was fantastic. Delivery, pace, style, even the reveal with the girl at the end was awesome. I am opposed to choosing Arioch Cain as the blacklister over Wendigo. That's my beef with the episode. Everything else is awesome and spot on.
And this episode of Troy's Semantics is brought to you by The Blacklist Exposed. All right, well, the episode ends with a Chris Isaak song. Now, we talk about music because we love the selection that they put. And what was the song from earlier in the episode?
The one earlier was Robots Don't Sleep, their song Trouble, which is interesting because they actually used Trouble from TV on the radio last week, and then they used another song called Trouble this week. So maybe we're in trouble, I guess. They're trying to make a point.
I see what you're saying, but skip all that. Chris Isaak is my favorite singer.
Yeah.
And I know most people are like, Chris who? Wicked Game, Baby Did a Bad Thing, whichever. I think most people have heard the song. But I absolutely love him. So anytime you put his song in there, if you guys are listening, if you put a song in every episode of his, I will rave about your show forever. I don't care how many incorrect blacklist names you get. Because I love me some Chris Isaak.
So
I don't know why, but I do.
Here's something that I was sitting back and I was like, oh my gosh. Because I've watched all 12 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. Yes, I'll admit it.
Why?
Because I love it. It just keeps getting better every time.
Well,
especially after the whole situation after the end of season 11. But
I just fell asleep, Troy.
Well, Meredith has these dialogues at the open and end of the show, and kind of Heroes had that same thing with Mohinder, and he would do these dialogues. So as Chris Isaak's song is playing, it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to do Tom and have Tom do a dialogue now at the end of the episode. And I was like, oh dear God, please don't let this be a dialogue. And then to find out it was the voicemail, I was like, oh, that's kind of sweet. But
do you mean monologue?
Monologue, whatever. Yeah, sorry. It's early.
All right.
Leave me alone.
I'm just saying. I'm just sitting here.
I was still mad about Wendigo.
I was going to let you go, but then we get emails about it, and then I got to read them, and I don't want to do that. So, Monologue. We got it.
Monologue. Yes.
Well, keep bringing Chris Isaak songs. If you guys need a list of what songs will be appropriate for each episode, I'd be more than happy to help you out. Love me some Chris Isaak. I think it's time to talk about these characters, man.
Absolutely.
Oh, I forgot. Apparently, I thought that there was music in this part. There's not.
There's not.
I missed 1 week, and I forgot how the entire show works. So funny. funny. All right. Well, can we talk a minute before we get into the characters? This is a personal thing. And I feel like we're bagging on the episode a little bit. We're not, because I absolutely love the episode just like you. I thought it was well paced. It's just, I have to talk about this because it was driving me bonkers.
Yeah, it's like the episode was fine. But
yeah, it was good. It was great.
When you bring in the concept of the show, there's like, now we're at the point where it's like, why did you guys miss this part? This doesn't fit.
Do you think it's a little easy how much they're helping them? I mean, to this point, I'm like, are you guys even trying to do your jobs anymore? Or are you just on a let's help Liz crusade?
Well, clearly it was established that Aram was on Liz's side from the beginning, from the season opener, right?
Right, but it's like everybody is now.
But you have to remember, Samar is on Red's payroll, right? Red put
True.
Samar into the task force, so
True.
of course Samar's going to help Red. Aram's going to help Red. And at the end of the day, Diego secretly wants to have her babies.
Mm-hmm.
So,
They would be gorgeous babies, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, is it convenient? Sure. From a storytelling TV perspective,
Yes.
I could get behind that. But at the same time, the creativity in the way they're helping them, I think is really good.
I agree with that. Though I had a really big issue with they offer an assassin a deal just to save Liz's life. I don't think the FBI would allow that. I just don't.
They did it in 24 all the time.
That's Jack Bauer. We don't bring up Jack Bauer, all right? We just leave Jack Bauer alone. He's in Russia right now. Tom's going to get to him. Oh, we could have a crossover.
There we go. Crossover event, yes.
No, I love the show. It's just, like, as I'm watching, I'm going, all right, so everybody's on board now? Is that what we're doing?
But I think that's a fair deal, though. I mean, he technically didn't do anything wrong. All he did was build the website. So, I mean, technically he shouldn't go to jail or die. He didn't kill anybody. So to give him a plea deal if he cooperates, I think that's totally fair in this situation.
You realize that he basically facilitated murder throughout the world, right?
It's like third degree, second cousin removed murder kind of thing.
Do you know what an accessory is? Because I think we should probably do a law class right now.
But an accessory could get a plea deal. I'm saying if you did the physical pulling of the trigger like Wendigo, no, Wendigo doesn't get a plea deal.
Would they give a plea deal to some, hey, basically we want you to save a suspected terrorist life? That's where I'm saying it's a little far-fetched.
All right.
All right, you with me? Hey, still love the show. I'm just saying you got to bring up the stuff too, Cooper. Okay, into characters. Cooper. Apparently he just set up his office and scolded Tom for being a crappy spy this week. I thought that was good. He's like, you're supposed to be better than this, man.
And he is better than that because he wasn't actually using Wainwright as his character. It was actually the other guy.
Absolutely. He was actually as the episode unfolded, I'm like, wow, Tom's actually a pretty good spy. Who knew? But that's really all Cooper did this week. It was kind of a very low-key episode for him. But we do get to learn a little bit more about Asher Sutton, who I thought was going to be just kind of a fly-by-night character, one of those token villains or something like that. Turns out he's a real character. He owes a lot of money. Seems like a very nice guy. So am I wrong to like this guy?
I think he's kind of interesting. At first, I couldn't get past the fact that he looked like Ashton Kutcher and sounded like Ashton Kutcher in that first episode.
And he's called Asher.
Yeah, that was really bothering me at first. But yeah, I kind of like his story. But what was really interesting about this episode for me was actually his girlfriend, Gwen, right? I think the reason why she came out, she talked to Tom. They're standing there, having this conversation. She reminds me of how Jolene, right? How she was kind of in there, kind of trying to mix things up and just kind of casual and then flips and stuff. Yeah. Because at the end of the episode, she just grabs the keys out of his hand and opens the trunk and had no remorse about looking at the dead body. So I think there's something more to Gwen.
I think she looked taken aback a little. But I do think there's more to her. Her character, she was kind of on the nose with some things. She was almost flirting, but then pulled back and said how much she loved her fiance. So I couldn't really tell. Was there flirting involved, or was that just small talk?
It was total flirting.
Okay.
And then she's like, yeah, but I really love my fiance, and I just want someone to make sure that he's taken care of, and then later on we'll hook up in the bathroom.
Wow. Okay, then. There was... they talked about love, and I think there's a little bit of a hammer on that love conversation. Like, Liz, Tom, Liz, Tom, Liz, Tom, is kind of what I heard.
Right.
The M&M analogies were a little gross, but yeah, I get it.
That's what I'm saying. She was flirting, right? M&Ms, melting, can do more than that, orgasm, all that came up in that conversation. She was hitting on him.
When you throw candy and orgasm in the same conversation, it's probably flirting. Well, we find out more about Asher Sutton, and we're going to keep an eye on Gwen because she might be. Troy's calling her shady, right? Is that what you're saying right now?
Not necessarily shady, but she leads to look. She looks differently than what she appears. Something about her. Either I'm not saying she's like with the Russians or helping the Russians, but you could very easily see her maybe twist and become like the ringleader of the Russians or something. And she's been extorting money from Asher this whole time.
I like that, Troy. I like where your mind's at. We find out that Asher didn't. That he didn't throw a fight, right? So he was paid to throw a fight and didn't throw it. So he's basically like Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction, and that's why the Russians are after him. Do you like this twist? Because I think we thought it was going to go a different way. I
do. I'm not so like after watching it the second time when they got to the Tom scenes, I started to become one of those like, oh, Tom, because the rest of the episode was so good, and I'm like, just get to Dembe, just get to. Mr. Kaplan, like, I don't care about Tom finding the Russians. Who cares, But at the same time, I got
a feeling we're going to need to care because I think that's where the story's going.
I absolutely do. They're going to tie together somehow. But at the same time, I did like watching Tom operate the way Tom operates, especially at the end when Tom is sitting in the car, just kind of patiently waiting. And he's like, okay, now you're going to deal with me. Yeah, you know what? I don't like you. And he just kills him in the street.
I love that.
It was so good.
I love that. I was like, all right, I'm getting closer to being back on Team Tom. Because I've always said I like Tom as a character when he's not, when Liz and him aren't. I don't like the romance, but I like Tom as a character. And it's kind of cool to see how he operates, how his story progresses and how he decides to deal with it. And he's actually kind of a good badass.
He is.
Can't deny it.
And that's why I loved his monologue at the end of the episode.
Is that dialogue? I don't know.
I did love it as he was like explaining, like, and everybody had their own kind of like special scene, and the music was playing, and then it's like, and that's what I want for you, Liz. And I was like, oh no, just have him talking to Gwen and Asher, and just have him having a conversation rather than doing it be the voicemail to Liz. And I was like, dang it.
Well, what do you think about? I mean, it kind of bleeds right into Tom. So, what do you think about Mr. Wainwright? And who's a townie, takes care of underground boxing problems, kills Russian mobsters. I mean, what do you think about this undercover op that he's basically doing?
I think it's, like you said, the way that they have to clear the name is to find Kara Kurt. So it makes sense, but it's such a long, drawn-out con to get to Kara Kurt. By this time, Kara Kurt's in like 5 different countries by now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how it can get to Kara Kurt. So unless this is actually going to be something where he infiltrates, he finds the Russians, because, again, it's all tied back to Russia and this bombing with Berlin that we've been talking about. It was in 1982, I believe. I think that instead of getting to Kara Kurt, it's going to get to something else. And that's going to be like, oh, holy crap kind of moment, like either at the end of the fall or at the end of the 3rd season. I don't think they're ever going to get to Kara Kurt. I think they're going to get to some other discovery, which would be really interesting. Because I would be on board with that.
I honestly think they're going to get to Kara Kurt before the fall season finale. Okay. Yeah, that's what I think. I think, honestly, they have come up with a pretty smart approach in terms of how they build their season. They started this really in season 2 where they have, was it the first 9, 11, whatever the number is, episodes, 9 episodes I think it is. And they kind of tell a specific story, and then the next set of episodes tells a different story. And I think that's what they're going to do. So I think by the fall finale, we're going to get to Kara Kurt. And if not get to him, at least find out very pertinent information as to where he is or how they can use that to clear Liz. I think Liz is actually going to be cleared to some degree by the fall finale. That's my personal opinion.
What would happen if we got to the fall finale and it was like a giant cliffhanger? Because we really haven't had a cliffhanger on the show yet.
I think they're probably going to do that because they want to carry you over from fall to the spring episode. So there'll be some type of cliffhanger. I don't have any doubt about that whatsoever.
Yeah, especially because if we end, right before Thanksgiving, assuming based on what we've seen on Wikipedia and stuff, then there's going to be that long drudge to get through the holiday season, to get to the new year, and then assuming it comes back in January. If it doesn't even come back till, say, February, like post-Olympics type of thing, right? Not that the Olympics is on this year, but it would be interesting to see, like, because if they wait that long and you have that cliffhanger, man, it just builds up all that pent-up emotion for the show to come back.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love the season so far. I honestly think it's better than season 2 at this point.
Oh, way better.
Yeah, so I'm really, and I love season 2, so I'm really curious
way better
where it's going.
second half of season 2. The Berlin stuff was still pretty awesome.
I like all of season 2.
Because you get Naomi and you get Jennifer and you get the Berlin and his daughter reconnecting because you thought she was dead. But that story was good. So it's probably equal to the first half of season 2. But definitely better than the second half of season 2.
I like it better than the first half of season 2. So, yeah. All right, well, Mr. Vargas, we had Paul Rubens return. Who else wanted to punch Pee-wee in his little playhouse? Huh?
Everybody.
Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Everybody's doing it right now. I guarantee it. Backstabbing SOB. So, do you think he deserved that gunshot?
Oh, yeah. He completely lied to Red's face. And at first, this is one of these things. So I'm going to give 100% credit to Alex for directing this.
Mm-hmm.
So as Pee-wee gets out of the car, as Vargas gets out of the car, and he's walking towards Red, and Red's like, Dembe, and then he like does this like small head nod shake.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for a minute there, maybe the concept that we talked about it was like a double setup thing where Vargas was actually working still with Red. That little small head nod made it look like, not here. Let's not talk about it here. And I thought, oh, great, he didn't backstab him. And so I was still on that hook until, of course, they got to the phone call, and it was like, oh, damn it, that didn't last very long.
I was never on that hook. I don't know why you guys thought that, but, I mean, sure, I guess. I never thought that. Not for a second. You don't shoot a guy if you're triple agents.
The only reason they shot him, though, was because he said, if I'm dead, my family is safe. So that's why it started that whole concept of maybe it was a setup to make Dembe look dead so his family would be fine, and then Dembe would come out of the weeds somewhere later, and everybody would be dead by that point, so it didn't matter.
Okay, that's fair. One thing I want to point out, and I've pointed this out, I haven't done it this season, but I did last season quite a bit. One thing that I always admire about the Blacklist is it's unlike other shows. Lost, Alias, the ones that Troy likes to mention every single week, and I think he gets a commission check for.
For the record, Aaron said it first, not me.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping I can get some of that money. The fact that they pay things off very quickly. I mean, not the overarching story. I mean, not like the season-long story. But if they set up like a small cliffhanger in one episode, generally it's paid off in the next episode. Like Dembe getting shot, some shows, like go watch The Walking Dead. It'll take 3 or 4 episodes before you'll ever get payoff on some big event. And like recent events, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So, but where Blacklist comes in, and I think I admire them because they do what most serialized TV shows do not do, which is they try to pay it off quickly. And I love that. Sometimes I wish they would stretch it out a little bit more, just because I think there's more story involved. But every time I think, well, that story's going to fall flat, they find another direction to go, and it ends up working out. But like the Dembe thing, I really thought we weren't going to get Dembe or Vargas resolved anytime soon, maybe not for a few episodes. Bam, next episode, resolved, both stories. And I think that's extremely impressive in a 22-episode serialized television show. I just want to give that credit while I'm thinking about it.
Agree.
Okay. All right. Are you sad that Vargas is gone? You're not going to see Pee-wee anymore?
No, because he was only in like 2 or 3. Season 2, he was funny, right? The whole, you do this to your dog and leave him in the house all day,
mm-hmm.
and the cool wigs and the sweaters and the turtlenecks. And so, yeah, I mean, as a character, interesting, fun, but overall, grand scheme of things, I'd be more upset if Glenn bit the bucket.
All right, well, let's go on to Mr. Solomon. I'm actually going to miss him a little bit, but let's go on to Mr. Solomon. Who was that young person with Solomon? Was that his kid or something?
I was wondering that exact same thing. I was like, is this like the administrative assistant? Is this like a girlfriend or what? Just a person in the network, a college person doing an internship in the Cabal?
I thought maybe kid, maybe his child. It's possible, right? I mean,
why would you rope your kid into this life of crime and stuff, though?
Because that's what criminals do. Like people that own corporate endeavors always bring their kids into it, right?
Solomon looks younger, though. She looked older.
I'm going kid. Just call it. Somebody write that down. Let me know if I'm right later. Well, he gets to Red. Actually, he gets Red to submit to his will, and Red surrendered, which I did not see coming. And he makes the statement that everybody in the audience started applauding for. So, do you want to read it? Because I know you love this. So why don't you tell us, what was that statement? What statement made Troy giddy?
He said, what is it with the two of you anyway? Some think it's the daddy-daughter thing. Others think it's a May. Now, he said May, September. Or at least that's what the closed captioning said.
Okay.
So, but I know most people refer to it as May December. I actually think it's a little bit of both. I was kind of like, whoa, that's gross.
Yeah, they nailed it. they just went for it, and I really like that they're basically saying it could be this, could be that, could be both. How creeped out are you right now?
So the whole December thing, we actually had this conversation at work of all places, if you can believe it. So you hear May December talked a lot about in Hollywood because you have like these older actors marrying down and all that stuff. And so when they used May September, which is what the closed captioning said, I wanted to know if this was saying that, Red and Liz aren't actually that far apart in age as we thought they would be. So they're trying to, because the months are closer, their ages are actually closer than we thought. I know that was supposed to be a point. They're not like 70-20, they're more like 50-30.
Man, you just reach sometimes for these ideas, don't you?
The only thing I could think of, because it's like, why would you change the meaning of the phrase, right? Urban Dictionary doesn't have May September. Urban Dictionary has May December.
Well, if Urban Dictionary doesn't have it, it must not be a thing. That's what I'm saying. Because that's like Wikipedia. That stuff's fact.
Well, I see that, and I was looking for it because I'm like, okay, what is it? Which is the phrase? What is the real phrase? And I can only find a wiki quote entry for May September, and then I could find only an Urban Dictionary May December, nothing in Wikipedia at all that I could find. And then when I started looking up some articles, and now I'm probably like going to get divorced by my wife for some reason because of that.
For good reason. For good reason, Troy.
Yeah. So the concept of it, I think, is really because I want to say because they were trying to prove a point that they're actually closer in age. And is that because Red is, again, not who we think it is? Not saying that it's the mother, just saying that maybe Red's an imposter, right? To go with one of our clearing the red tape theories that are out there.
Well, we're gonna come back to that when we talk about Red and Liz. So we'll come back to the actual relationship. Solomon got away. So did you think?
How did he get away? Because I watched it the second time this morning, and I was like, did he just kind of run behind the car and then run out the hangar?
He's just
like he
really
didn't drive
quick.
away. He didn't go away in a golf cart or nothing.
He is the Flash. He just booked out of there, man. He's quick. Dembe can't shoot everybody, man. He's already pulling John McClane. He's trying to take everybody out. One guy had to get away, so it turns out it's the guy leading the charge. Let's
be clear, he's only McClane if he did it without any shoes on.
I'm pretty sure he pulled that gun out of his back. He had it taped to his back, and he just came out of nowhere and boom, 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 boom. Yeah, he's got to have no shoes. I see what you did there. All right, Kaplan sets up the scene, basically, for the fake death, the fakety fake death. And she doesn't really have much to do in this episode other than just set that scene up. But there is like a little aside where she comes into the scene with cleaning supplies and a chainsaw that made me just giggle.
I totally did.
Did you get anything else from her character this week? She really didn't.
Not a whole lot. I love, though, that the fact that she staged the scene a certain way. And I think that's something that talks about her character a little bit, that she's not just a cleaner. She's also kind of the storyteller, if you will. Because I don't know if you noticed it, but the blood, as it's coming out from Liz, where she was laying on the ground, and they zoomed in and did a close-up shot of the blood was in the kind of Y/V marker. That was the scar in her hand, the scar on the top of the box. So it's almost like it was a marker, like it was Red's marker.
I did not notice that. Well,
and I only caught it the second time through, and then someone mentioned it to us. I believe it was somebody from the Clearing the Red Tape group again. But they said, hey, if you look at that scar, that blood flow, and they actually zoomed in on it to make emphasis that it does actually look like the Y, if you will.
Well, Dembe, who love me some Dembe, who wanted to make out with Dembe in that airport hangar? Me? Raise your hands again.
I. 2 eyes, 2 hands.
Were you excited to see him back so quickly? And he didn't seem to be pained at all with a shot in the ribs.
Well, see, this is the thing. Adrenaline takes over.
It's true.
So I think at this point, he was probably like, I just have to get through this, assault. And then once he got through it, he collapsed right away when he got to Raymond. So clearly he was in pain and he was struggling and near death. But he just had enough juice in him to aim properly, shoot everybody he could without hitting Red or Liz in any way, shape, or form. So cool as the scene was, maybe a little bit far-fetched because he was injured to be able to have such good aim, but absolutely loved coming in guns blazing. So cool.
Yeah, really, if you're going to consider what the stretch was, it's how did he set the golf cart to come in that way, and he came in the back way. That just seems very calculated. But it's Dembe, and Dembe's awesome. I had some people ask me, instant messages me and say, well, how in the world could he find them? And I guess my answer to that would be, I don't need everything spelled out, number one. Number two, he could have followed Vargas. I mean, if he was still coherent enough, he could have he was in a car when he got shot, so he could have followed Vargas to some degree.
Well, and Vargas beeped the horn, and then the people came and helped him, so they could have figured that out, and he could have gotten bandaged up enough. Because, of course, gunshot wound, never go to the hospital, right? That's the first thing they tell you on TV. So maybe he called what some people like to refer to as Mr. Michael McDowell, the Red's other henchman, played by Boz. And maybe he called him, and maybe Boz was the one that drove the golf cart in while he came around the back.
It's possible. There's a bunch of different theories. This is one of those things where I just let go. Because it was a cool scene, I don't really care. How's that? I really don't care. He got there, and he did an awesome thing. We're cool with it. Samar, she gets a little more screen time, her and Aram both, and she tries to tell Liz to own up to what she's done and turn herself in. Now, I mention this because it goes back to what I said a couple of episodes ago where I'm not sure Samar's on the up and up. I'm not sure that she isn't in cahoots with somebody because of the way that she handled one of the cases a few weeks back. So I'm actually going to expand on that for you if I can, because I've been following a theory, weird as it is. I don't like this theory. I think it's strange because I have some ways to debunk it, but some have called it the JFK theory. Okay. In the fact that, so the fact is that Liz was there, right? She pulls the gun and the trigger to kill Connolly, but notice Connolly falls forward, right? Oh, so my Lord. Really?
So some are speculating that maybe Samar was there and Samar took out Connolly.
That seems like a way to get around Liz being guilty, and I don't like that. I hope that's not true.
But then she says that whole thing, like, I can atone for my things. I know what I've done. So she's speaking like she's, killed somebody else. So that's where people are coming up with the JFK theory. Now, my debunking of that theory is, remember, if we are to believe that Liz, as a 4-year-old, shot the man in the fire also falls forward. And there's no one else there shooting unless you're going to say someone shot him through the window or whatever. But just saying.
These attentions to detail that you take and you go back and watch these episodes to see this stuff, this is why you're going to be single. I'm just letting you know. This is something you might want to pay attention to. I tried to help you when I could, man. That's what I did. I don't know about all that. I definitely was not going. I'm not going to go back and do a magic bullet on that scene. I'm going to take it for what it was, that Liz shot Connolly. But I do wonder if Samar is in some way working with the director. And she's trying to bring Liz in because, keep in mind, this whole season, she has repeatedly wanted to bring Liz in. Do you think it's possible that she's, and I know some people don't want to admit that Samar might be working with him, but do you think it's possible she's working with the director?
No. Bad idea.
Okay.
Bad.
Okay.
Because,
just curious.
Remember, Samar wanted to capture Red because she thought Red was responsible for killing her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then Red hands the guy to Samar to say, here's the dude that actually killed your brother. So now she basically owes Red a debt of service, right? A debt of gratitude for that. Because of that, there's no way Samar works for the Cabal. Okay?
All right. So we're split on that.
So
I think it's possible.
There's no way that is going on.
Well, we're split. I think it's possible. Possible. And it might explain why she gets to wear those low-cut shirts and nobody else does. See? There's a theory. There's something else to add to it. Deadnotalive.org, that's what it's actually called, I thought was a really funny line. And I really love her relationship with Aram this episode. I like how they are handling it. I think you called it in the last episode, which I was not on, but you and Doug were talking, and you mentioned that there's a picture in Aram's apartment of Aram and Samar. So they're hinting at the relationship without directly badgering you over the head with it.
Right.
I like that. I really do. I think it's sweet. Now, moving to Aram, he's the one that figures out that it's really a hitman website, open to the market. And then you get this scene where you get a techie tough guy. He gets to go in there and actually play Mr. Agent Aram, threatening to drop a virus. And what did you think about this, getting him involved in the operations end of the agency side?
I actually loved it a little bit. Now, the problem, and these guys don't know because they're filming at different points, but there was kind of a similar scene in Blind Spot where the person came in, it isn't supposed to be a questioner, comes in and questions the person. And so the fact that Aram isn't really the questioner kind, and he comes in and questions, it's exact same week that these episodes aired. I thought that was a little weird, but that's just me as the viewer. But at the same time, I thought it was really great that you get to see Aram's skill set being used for what it's used for. And I love the little banter back and forth because this is exactly how computer geeks talk to each other. They're like, well, I have, this particular rootkit virus, and I have this two-factor authentication, and I have this 248-bit encrypted blah blah blah.
Now you work in tech. Do you buy the solution here?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
I was a little bit surprised that they didn't have an 802.1x certificate that they needed to use in order to actually, put it into the site to authenticate them physically. So you have a physical security presence and an online presence, but we'll let that slide.
Well, all the cool people just stop listening. I'm just letting you know. All right. They have a little moment. He has a little moment also a little later with Ressler, and they're basically explaining what they did to help Liz. And Ressler's like, hey, I appreciate it. It's all good. We're good. And they hug, and it's played for comedy. It's really funny, but it's also really sweet. Even though, Ressler does the don't ever hug me like that again. He really seemed to be into it. Like, he was appreciative.
Yeah, he lingered for a while.
Yeah, he didn't, push him away. Hey, man, men don't do that. He was all like, oh, come give me some, brother. And then, the ladies walked in, and he realized, well, this moment might make things a little awkward, so don't ever do that again. I love that moment. I thought it was my favorite moment of the show, honestly.
Yep, agree.
Yeah. All right, which leads us to Ressler. He had a lot going on this week. I mean, aside from the 12-step program, which we're glad that he's still continuing with. I hope he has his coin or whatever. He had to attend the presidential commission, which, speaking of 24, reminded me a little bit of 24. But it's looking into the attacks, the terrorist attacks. And we meet the new national security advisor, Laurel Hitchin, I hope I got that right, who's played by a longtime favorite actress of mine, Christine Lottie. She's been in a ton of stuff. Most recently, if you watch Y50, she played McGarrett's mom. But she's been in a ton of stuff.
Well, she's most recently best known for her role in Chicago Hope.
I don't watch Chicago Hope, so for me, most recently, she was McGarrett's mom. And that's where she should go back, because I really need that storyline wrapped up. Anyway, she is the National Security Advisor, and I guess my question in regards to her, because she later sets up the director's going to be working with Ressler. And originally, when Ressler first meets her, she's giving away a goodie bag. She seems like she's on the up and up. She's a good person. But then it almost feels like she puts Ressler on the spot right there in the courtroom, trying to get him to show his true emotions. But I can't tell if that is because she's working with the Cabal or because she's just doing her job.
I think at that point in the episode, you have to assume she's just doing her job. Because it was very set up specifically like, don't show your emotions, don't give anything away that's not a direct answer to the question. Mm-hmm. And as she's grilling and grilling and grilling, you can see it just gets under Ressler's skin. So I don't think it was necessary, because she didn't really, the questioning that she did with the director later with Peter, mm-hmm. I don't think that it was anything different between the two lines of questioning, because you don't want to show your cards in front of the other committee members who are not part of the Cabal. So she has to do her job there. So she's going to maybe push a little bit harder on Ressler because she is working with Peter, apparently. Mm-hmm. Or this is just like the judge, right? We thought the judge was working with the Cabal during that whole interrogation with Liz, and he ends up not working with the Cabal. He's just being manipulated the whole time. So maybe she's not with the Cabal, and she's just really, truly believes that the failures of 9/11 are really an issue, and she wants to make it right.
Is that what you believe? As the episode wraps up, is that where you stand?
Because she came and said the president wanted this, and we already had that thing where the director was having that conversation when Liz walks in with the fulcrum, and he mentions the president in that situation as well. I think there's still something to this whole President 2017 concept that's playing out to either the election or Inauguration Day or something. So I'm back and forth on this one. There's not enough info to go either way.
So you're kind of you're reserving judgment at this point.
Yes,
I am too.
Because she makes awesome red velvet cake pops.
Lord. I am reserving judgment too, because I really think that would be too close to Connolly, and it would be like just repeating themselves, and I don't see them doing that. So I'm kind of reserving judgment because I think she'll be on the up and up. That's what I'm hoping anyway, and I'm hoping Ressler can bring her evidence to show that the director is actually a little bit shadier than what we think. But I am on board with this president theory, because the president keeps coming up throughout this season. There's going to be something more to do with him, right? There's got to be. Got to be. Okay, well, Ressler also admits he thinks Cain is innocent. It was actually very... I know that they wanted him not to do that, but I'm glad that he did. I'm glad that he said it on a national stage. Do you wish he would have kept his mouth shut?
No, I think it's really great to know that at least he assumes that she's innocent. And again, it's not that he thinks she's innocent, it's that he believes she's innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
He believes in the law's eyes that everybody has their right to be able to plead their case and then let the system do what it's supposed to do. So I think it does kind of assume that he does believe she's innocent, but I think it more assumes the fact that Ressler is still this good, law-abiding, decent person when it comes to the law in his job.
Well, he does say he thinks she's innocent, and 12, if you go by the rule of the law and you do a jury of her peers, those 12 people will agree with him. He does say that. So he does think she's innocent. He does.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yep.
No, you don't have to agree with me. I'm telling you, he said that.
I know, yeah. I remember the jury. I was trying to remember how because when he said the jury line, it was weird. It sounded like, I don't think, it was almost like a double negative. So I was trying to figure out how did he say it, and I didn't even catch it the second time around. So if you're saying that he said that they would agree with him, then he totally clearly said, yeah. She's innocent. But
well, that leads us to the director. And is his official name like Peter Kotiopoulos now? Is that?
You got it. Yep.
Okay. So
I'm
now
impressed.
we finally know his name. You're impressed that I could actually say a name correctly.
Exactly right.
That's fair. He testified. I kind of want to punch him in his playhouse too. I mean, he basically discounted everything that the Fulcrum said, that there's no cabal, it's a public's need for a simple solution, denies being involved, and assures us there isn't one. Do you think the public buys this? I mean, was the Fulcrum being released all for nothing?
I mean, look at you go to the end of the episode with the whole, I could see how you could believe that because you're told what it is on TV and you don't have any other information. So if you're literally just looking at the testimony and looking at the facts, Fulcrum is a little bit old. It was deployed by a person that's actually on the most wanted list. So just because it's out there doesn't mean you have to buy it at face value. And then the fact that he equates it to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was a document that literally kind of was about anti-Semitism and things going on back in the, I believe it started back in the French Revolution. But I think the bigger point is that it actually came out in the public in 1905 during the Russo-Japanese War, right, when the Russians actually fell to Japan. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really interesting to see how there's all this stuff that they're bringing into the show that's tied back to Russia somehow. So it's clearly, and it talks about how it's like equative to a Cold War. And so the fact that he actually compares those two, basically he's saying the Fulcrum is nothing other than a giant manifesto. And so therefore any manifesto could be written by any conspiracy theorists. Therefore you can't really take the information as plausible or valid because it's written by madmen.
I like that. It's written by madmen. Wait, does that mean it was written by like 1960s advertisers that smoke?
Guys, yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, and now the director is working with the post office, which brings us, when we're talking about our profiling question, how do you think that Ressler's going to facilitate it? How is he going to work with the director, do you think?
Good question. This is really where that whole Solomon director scene and how that kind of played out. I wonder if the director is going to become, and again, you say you're going back to this, so you don't want to see it, but could the director become the next Alan, right? Mm-hmm. Alan was helping Red behind the scenes, so do we have to assume the director is bad? Or do we have to assume maybe something happened and now the director's like, hey, I'm going to help you, even though I hate you, but I'm going to help you, and this is the way I'm going to help you is by being involved with Ressler.
No, the director's totally bad. He's totally bad.
100%.
Yeah, are you trying to make an argument that he might not be?
Well, I'm saying anybody can be paid off with a price, right?
Oh, he's dirty. He's bad laundry. He's just dirty laundry.
He's scared of Solomon. Just saying.
I'm scared of Solomon. Man, he was going to cut Liz up, and then he did this creepy knife tracing of her body, and man, yeah, I'm scared of Solomon. He is nasty. Nasty man. He's going to do I think we're going to have some serious complications with Solomon at some point, and I think he's going to take one of our characters out, our beloved characters out in a very bad way.
Right. And the thing I loved about that scene was, if you're a fan of David Strathairn at all, right?
You have to be. Go watch Sneakers if you're not.
And that's exactly where I was going. When he stood up and he kind of goes to the window, I was like, I saw Mother, not Mother, Oh crap! What was his name? Whistler.
Whistler, yeah.
Yeah, when he stands up, I totally saw Whistler in that moment. And he turns on, he's like, "Man, this place is upgraded. I'd love a tour."
So good.
It was so awesome.
Man, I just love how he's just eating cake pops and being about, hey man, I realize that you're basically accusing me of being a criminal mastermind right now, but I'm going to ignore it and just eat cake pops and look around. I like that. That's a nice little touch on his part. Red, and we got 2 characters left, and the last character is always the main character, which generally ends up being Red because Red usually has the bigger storyline. But this week it's Liz, so she's going last. Red, the one thing, I love the line, which essentially said, I couldn't get past the belief in something bigger than myself. When he's talking to Ressler, I thought that was a nice touch when they're addressing the recovery program. Do you think he's alluding to he used to have a drug problem of some sort with the opium, or he's just making a funny aside?
Well, no, and I think he was just making a funny aside, but at the same time, I could see where he could have been captured somewhere and had an opium issue. You know, I almost equated it right there in that exact moment back to season 3 of 24, where it was like maybe it was something he had to do in order to fit in with somebody, kind of like Tom and having that character play. But the fact that he actually said that I couldn't get past the belief in something bigger than myself clearly said a couple things. Either one, he's an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2, maybe he truly thinks like he is the end-all, be-all, and he is just that good, and that he's infallible in his mind, and that may cause to his downfall.
It could be. Well, I think he is kind of full of himself. I mean, you know, who would think he's not? But we love that about him.
Absolutely.
And we find out again that Red really hates poachers. If I was a poacher, I would probably get out of the business, like soon.
Yeah, whether it's animal poaching or even human poaching.
Mm-hmm. Not a fan of poaching.
Not cool.
Apparently he's cool with people torturing their kids, though. Just saying. Last week, flashback. Wadikoff, was it Wadikoff? I don't know if I said that right, but have you heard him, like his computer expert that basically traced down the Blair and her dad? And I'm sure our listeners, our great listeners, will correct me. I have never heard the name before. I'm sure it had to have come up, but you're the memory guy.
If he was, maybe it was with the group of people that was trying to piece together all the stuff during the shredded paper, middle of season 1. They're trying to find out who the mole was. Maybe he was part of that group.
Okay.
But I didn't recognize the name.
That's one I'm actually calling our listeners because I didn't off the top of my head remember that. I would love to hear. I'm sure one of you, if not 10 of you, remember exactly who that character is if you've heard it before. So please write in. I would love to be refreshed, so to speak. But he basically they find Arioch Cain, and that's how they find him/her. It's really a her. But so that's really all Red did this week and help create the story. So are you kind of surprised that Red didn't have a bigger, like a flashy story time with Red and that sort of thing? I mean, he really didn't have that this week.
Well, he had one. We're going to play that one, obviously, for Red's Rhetoric. I think this is just him kind of moving along through the episode, and I really love the fact that he was working. I think this was more of a old school season 1 Red of, I'll give you enough information to the FBI, but let the FBI figure this one out, because in order to make the fake death plausible, it needed to come from an FBI angle rather than coming from Red's angle, otherwise nobody would believe it.
That's fair. I gotcha. Well, Liz finally, well, not finally, I mean, this whole season has been about Liz on the run, but Red has been in the driver's seat, it felt like. Like, he's been leading the charge the past few episodes. And this episode really, for me, centered around Liz, because we got to see how she reacted to situations without Red. When she gets shot at, she really handles it. She figures it out. She hotwires a car. I mean, get her in a Fast and Furious movie, because this woman can hotwire every car known to man, apparently. Which I thought was a nice little touch. And like, when did they make her a career car criminal? I don't know when that happened, but I love it.
That's the new drinking game for season 3. Every time she hotwires a car, because Ressler's not getting punched in the face.
Oh, I like it. I like it. And did you notice that, like, when she was getting shot at, I thought Red was going to cry. He looked very emotional about that. He was very concerned. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so there are some doubters out there that he has any legitimate concern for Liz. I don't know how you can still have that, seeing some of these episodes in season 3. He has legitimate concern for her and her safety. And
especially when Solomon was doing the knife dance on her body, you saw him getting up like, stab me instead. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got real concern for her. Now,
I have to say, though, before you move on,
okay,
that it is Back to the Future month here, October 2015. And if hoverboards would have been invented Liz would have been able to get away because she does the old duck behind the car and hang on to the tailpipe to avoid the sniper.
Oh, Lord. Well, thankfully, by the time they listen to this, it'll be November, so we're over that. So let's move on. How about that hug between Liz and Red, huh?
No, that was a hug from Liz to Red. Okay, Red was not expecting it. Red was like, oh, you like she attacked him almost.
So what do you take from that?
Comfort. Well, he wanted to comfort her, right? Because he does care for her. So you're going to comfort her, but at the same time, it wasn't like they both came to each other to embrace. People were like, oh, they came to each other. No. Liz came to Red, and Red was like, there, tap, tap. Okay, let's move on.
So you're seeing it like a daughter coming to a father after she was frightened.
Yep.
Not a, man, we should find a motel.
No.
We should take that fedora off. You know what I'm saying? A little something. None of that, huh? Because there are some shippers that lost their minds.
I know. First she's like scoping up from behind, looking at his bottom, going through a vent or a box, and now they're hugging. I mean, the shippers are getting all kinds of things this season.
That's got to be intentional, right? Like they are just feeding, oh, let's drive them nuts.
Well, that's the only reason Solomon had that great line, right? What is it with you two? The daddy-daughter thing, the May, December, September thing.
It's a little of both.
The minute he says that, it's like, okay, neither of those thoughts are true. They're over. They're done. It's put the dead in the water.
All I kept thinking was, man, is this Chinatown? And if you've ever seen Chinatown, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen Chinatown, go watch it because it makes sense. Okay, well, shippers are going to think what they think. People that think a different way are going to think what they think. You take what you can from it. I saw it more. I still say uncle. I don't know what your stupid theory is, but I just say uncle.
Just caregiver.
Caregiver. We'll go with that. Caregiver. Not romantic in any way.
Nope.
Liz gets to witness Red kill two people this week. One, I mean, he just straight up kills him. He kills the assumed Wendigo when he just basically drops him off the building. And you get that look in Red's eye, like, I mean, it was a pretty malicious look. It was pretty vicious. And then the other one when he kills Vargas, which I think is more forgivable in terms of Liz's eyes. Do you think her witnessing both of these is going to change anything in how she sees Red?
Oh, and you forget that he killed the gunmaker too.
Oh yeah, okay.
Shot him right in the heart.
Okay, so there's three.
Yep. No, I think that the dropping him off the roof on purpose, because clearly it wasn't like he was trying to pull him up and then he slipped, right?
No, not at all. Mm-mm.
This was a I'm done with you, and you can see his hands kind of like Pontius Pilate. I washed my hands of this, and boom, there he goes. That one I think would probably affect Liz more than the other two. Because clearly he knows that you don't cross Red, so the Vargas killing, no big deal there. The fact that he was already shot in the leg, he just kind of sped it along because he probably would have bled out from a artery or something bleeding out of his leg. So, the dropping him off the building, that's the one that I think Liz goes, this guy's really not cool.
And it comes back to a profiling question that we had a few weeks ago, where is she beyond the point of redemption? And I gotta say, as a viewer. I mean, obviously, they're going to play the story out how they play it out. But as a viewer, it gets harder and harder to see how she could ever go back to the FBI because she is such an accessory to so many deaths and crimes. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, I thought you were going to go a different place with that. I thought maybe when you talk about redemption now and you look at Red, and he says, can I ever see the light again? Was this a point where he's been kind of redeeming himself through the course of the show through Liz? And then here he just kills this guy in cold blood because he won't give up the information. Mm-hmm. So how can he ever be redeemed if he's going to do that?
Well, look at it both ways. I'm curious what people think on that because it's an interesting twist. I mean, he flat out killed the guy on the roof. There's no vengeance. There's no adrenaline. There's none of that. It was straight up murder. Straight up murder. And a lot of mommy foreshadowing, especially when they're talking to Blair at the end. Liz gives her story about how she misses her mom and she misses her voice and, all that. There's mommy's coming this season. I'm almost certain of it. Mommy's coming.
Some people are already saying that Christine's character was her.
Oh, Christine Lottie?
Yeah.
Well, she's not Russian.
I know. I'm just saying. That's what people were saying.
Oh, and that she would be if she could be her mom. And she's a Russian, because I don't think you put Christine Lottie in a role without substantial roles coming, like a substantial storyline coming up. So she could be the mom, and she's basically working for the president. So she's right next to the president all the time, and she's actually a Russian spy. Oh, that's a good theory. I like it. I like it. Do you like that?
Interesting twist, but you would think that the director would be able to redo that then because the director apparently knew Liz's mom.
Well, maybe he does. We don't know yet.
Yeah, unless they're in on it together. That's right.
Yeah, we don't know yet because she did get him into working with Ressler. So there's some validity there. We don't know the relationship yet. We haven't seen that play out. That's an interesting idea. I like that. Well, remember to be sure to download the Blacklist Exposed. We're almost done with our episode. We've got a few more things. You can download the app on iOS or Android. Be sure to go even deeper into the mystery of Red Reddington by visiting our partner Blacklist sites, theblacklistnbc.com. That's theblacklistnbc.com. And as well as see the weekly post for Clearing the Red Tape in our Facebook group to go even deeper into this episode.
And we actually had a new iTunes review as well. Just want to say thank you to, I guess it's Tobogana from the United States. Said, perfect pairing. The show, the podcast, it's like peanut butter and jelly, but better. Not much is better than peanut butter and jelly, but I'm glad we are.
Troy and Aaron is better than peanut butter and jelly. You heard it, America.
I'm jelly.
I don't know what that means, and it's creeping me out. So let's move on.
You're kind of sticky like that. Each podcast compels me to watch the episode a few more times in order to pick up on the action or dialogue I missed. The host's sparring antics are hilarious, and their personalities divergent, yet complimentary. Great app for a fantastic show. Thanks so much.
Wow. I assume it's all about me. That's what I got, because I can't think of anything bigger than myself.
It's at hosts, plural, the hosts.
That was an X. That was a typo. Typo. Big typo.
Also, a big thanks to the 12 of you that rated the app on Google Play. Much, much, much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks so much for sending those reviews in. And if you have not yet done so, please go ahead and leave a review right now. You can pause it. We will wait. And remember, Troy's got a little contest going on, so you can win some stuff.
That's right. 10 new ones this week. Get started today.
Absolutely. And you can also leave either in the iTunes podcast app for iOS or our app in the Google Play Store. And now let's see what stories Red has to tell with this week's Red's Rhetoric.
Well, I love last week how people on Twitter were like, I think Red's speech is going to win with 70% of the vote. And I have to say that you're wrong because it only won 58% of the vote. There were a lot of people that liked Red Power in the story with Alice last week, if you can believe it, Aaron.
I can't believe it.
I think it's the accent. The accent totally makes people fall in love with that entire clip.
It's because yeah, I like the other one better.
I do too. But it did win, and that's all that matters at the end.
It's all that matters.
So this week, 2 scenes. Unfortunately, Red only had 1 good story time, so our second scene is going to be just for fun. But the scene with, of course, Red talking to the gun maker about elephants and how he feels about poachers.
Would you look at that? 416 Rigby Mauser. And fully loaded, no less. An African bull elephant weighs 14,000 pounds, and this can bring one down. I happened upon one of those magnificent creatures in the Zambezi Valley, and one of these came in quite handy.
You shot an elephant?
Lord, no. I shot the poacher that was about to kill the elephant.
Hashtag Red Poacher for that one. And then our second one comes when Red and Liz are met up with one Mr. Solomon.
What is the deal with you two anyways? It's what everybody wants to know. Some say it's a daddy-daughter thing. Others swear it's May, September. I prefer to believe it's a little of both.
The fact that we're still alive means you need something from me. Whatever it is, let her go. My resources are at your disposal. It's a limited time offer, Matthias. You need to act now.
Oh, you'll give me what I need. I'm certain of that. Right there, that's good.
Let go! Stop! Grab her leg! Get your hands off me!
Put her down! Stay there!
I need to stay put.
Call the director. Tell him I'll give him everything I've been collecting. All the evidence against him. Call him!
You don't need to concern yourself with the director anymore. You're in my care now, Reddington.
Good stuff, good stuff. That one, hashtag Red Call. And I think there's something we could take away from this. Number one, I clearly heard September that time around.
Well, it's seasonal. Romance is seasonal.
Right.
Right?
Number two, the relationship between Red and Liz, after this scene, I think most importantly, Liz can't die. I think that's really what it is. There's something about Liz that she can't be dead. If she's dead, something is almost like Red couldn't die, because if Red dies, the fulcrum comes out into the wind. So I think this is Liz can't die for some reason.
Interesting. So more than just I care about you.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Bigger plan, bigger picture. And then the fact that he's willing to actually work with Solomon to let Liz live, I think is really interesting.
Very cool, man.
And this is the guy that's going to, kill Dembe. And you're going to work with him? Okay, whatever.
You don't kill Dembe. Dembe is John McClane.
Right. All right, so this week, Red Poacher or Red Call, your choices for voting. And, of course, you can do that on Instagram, Tumblr, Clamor, all the places, Facebook, Twitter. So just make sure you get those out there, and we'll see who wins this week's Red's Rhetoric.
Now let's see what you all thought of Arioch Cain with our special agent intel. First, we have a voicemail from Neil.
This is Neil from Bowie calling into the Blacklist Exposed about the episode Arioch Cain, number 50. It was great to see Mr. Kaplan. It's too bad that the dead Liz misinformation wasn't going to last even a whole episode. I was actually a bit annoyed that the title of the episode was Arioch Cain, who was really a bogus waitlister. There wasn't even that guy. The actual waitlister of the episode should have been Wendigo. The great moment of the whole episode to stand up and applaud was Dembe's appearance. That was just magnificent there. I am looking forward to was going to be the final season of Person of Interest. Anyway, thanks for the podcast. Onward.
Neil, I love you so much right now.
Whoa.
Neil's actually called into a bunch of my shows, so Neil and I go way back. But the fact that he agrees with me that it should have been titled Wendigo.
So do you love him like May, September, or do you love him like Daddy, Daughter? How do you love him?
No, just maybe like May, June.
Just a month. I'll give you a month, Neil. All right, we got one from Andrew who says, "Hey, Troy and Aaron, this is a great episode with so many twists and turns. At the beginning, when Mr. Kaplan walked in and saw Liz's dead body, I was starting to panic that Liz is dead and her name will never be cleared. Come on, man. Really?"
I actually liked what Neil said, the fact that I thought maybe they would have carried it over a couple episodes a la Walking Dead style.
All right. Well, apparently some people did. Maybe I watched too much TV. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we watched too much TV.
Yes.
But then when the injury scene occurred and Ressler was stating that he believed in her innocence, I was happy to hear that, however, I knew that stating this will come to bite him big time, which we saw at the end with the director being appointed, to oversee post office operations, which I think is going to be disastrous. Also, the Dembe rescue...
He wasn't appointed over the post office. He was a partnership.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
Revan's still over Ressler.
Yeah, co-chairs, basically. Also, the Dembe rescue scene when he walked in with guns blazing, I thought for a moment that Vargas and Dembe planned a Batman gambit in which Vargas would deliver them to Solomon and Dembe would come to rescue them, which would have been more epic. Sadly, Vargas is a traitor, and may he rest in pieces. I like that. I did not expect Arioch Cain to be the teenage girl. I thought for a moment it was her father, which I think they were going for that. But that shows how the Blacklist is a kind of show to be unpredictable and throw curveballs your way, Andrew. P.S. Just one more thing. All right, Columbo. I noticed in the scene where Vargas is calling Solomon while Red is entering the car. I noticed that Red was within earshot of Vargas while he's making the call, and I was wondering at that time whether Red would act on it or had a plan to reverse the trap at the hangar. I was wondering if you guys saw the same thing as I did and wonder whether it was a technical goof that they forgot to fix while filming editing. PSS, #Red Power.
See, another Red Power vote. That makes it 57%.
Lord.
No, I watched it again today, and clearly the conversation, he is completely nondescript. He's like, I've been instructed that I'm supposed to make sure that you are going to this airport, meet us there, is all he says. So if I'm Red with an earshot, I don't hear Solomon on the other end of the line. I hear exactly what I told Vargas to tell him. I am with Andrew in the respect that I thought that as well, because you do see Red looking at him, and he's giving him kind of a look. So I kind of wondered at that time, but you could tell in the episode he didn't know that Dembe was going to save him.
I think he really thought he was doomed.
Yep.
My opinion. Okay, Matt wrote in and said, hey, I thought about you, Troy, and your wild theory that Red is Elizabeth's mom. Not that I agree with that. When I read a post on Quora?
Yep, Quora.
Okay. In short, the Quora post talks about how Red tells his stories in a highly feminine way with extra superfluous details, very colorful style, but ends it in a masculine style, straight to the point and blunt, and then he died, for example. And when you think about how passionately Red railed against the father character in The Djinn, about how intolerable he was, and most of the world is, against homosexuality, I don't know, guys. There could be something to Troy's mother theory after all. Sorry, Aaron. I'm on your side on this one. I really am. Troy's off his rocker. Matt. Matt, you and I agree on that very last statement. Absolutely. He's off his rocker.
And I do have a link to that Quora article, so we'll put that in the show notes over at theblacklistexposed.com for episode number 35, Arioch Cain.
And it comes back to my point about why the hell didn't he let him go? That irks me. That really bothered me because I'm still talking about it, and that was last week. But whatever. Also, just want to say a quick thank you to Katrina, Tessa, Marnie, Kathy for their feedback last week. Unfortunately, we received it after the show. If you want your feedback to make the show, make sure you get it in by 9 p.m. Eastern Friday nights. Also, we had a nice message from Leonard Call himself. Yes, Ned Van Zant wrote in and said, fantastic show, guys. Thanks, Ned. Great to see you again on the show this season.
Yeah, I hope we get to see more Leonard Call. I like how he's almost like the Dembe Part 2. He's like the next go-to person. So I want to know, like, what's the org chart look like for Red's organization? It's like just Dembe versus Kaplan versus Leonard.
It's all over the place, man. So
Glenn's clearly on the bottom of that org chart.
Absolutely, but, we still like him. We still like him a lot. How does that make you feel, Troy? I got to ask you, just like on a personal note, and I know the show's going long, but I think it's an important question. I mean, we've had a lot of success with the podcast, and a lot of people are listening, which I think is fantastic. I appreciate every one of you. But when you get showrunners and cast members writing in, which we've had several at this point, how does that make you feel? I mean, because I know this is really Troy's baby, so I'm asking him.
I just think it's great. I mean, number one, the thing with television these days, it's like there's so much stuff to watch on TV, right? And the fact that you would take time out to watch any show in the first place is step one. But then the fact that you guys come back and listen to us yammer on for 70 to 90 minutes each week because you love the show that much, I think it's more a testament that, we do this for the fans, because without you guys, the show would be nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So I really think it's great that the producers and the writers and the actors, if they're taking time to thank us, they're really thanking all of you. So we're just a conduit. So clearly, you guys make this show happen by sending in your feedback and your theories and communicating in all the Facebook groups. So just think of it as a thank you. Your stuff is actually being heard by them, and so just think of us as the conduit. So I can't take any credit at all. It's totally you guys that make the podcast possible, and of course the writers for putting out great content and making it such a fantastic show.
Well, I'm glad you gave a little presidential speech there, but I asked you how you feel about it. Answer
awesome.
The question. All right. That's all I wanted to know. God. Well, that's going to conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter this season at The Blacklist GSM. We live tweet during the East Coast feed, and we use the show's hashtag, The Blacklist. We also have a Facebook group to search for The Blacklist Exposed and join us for the fun, which we just passed 500 members, by the way. That's fantastic.
Ooh, nice. Intel from you guys is what we want, and we have a few ways you can do that. You can obviously head us up on Tumblr, Instagram, Clamor, or as always, visit theblacklistexposed.com. You can call and leave us a message or use your smartphone and use your send voice message button right from the website.
You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes and leave us a review or listen from the website. But if you're really on the go, make sure you download our app for iOS and Android powered by Spreaker. You will also find all the intel and analysis about this episode for Arioch Cain by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. Big thanks for listening, but don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. How will Ressler facilitate working with the director?
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2015. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.